Alright, what's up guys? My name is Zach, and today I am driving a 2017 BMW X5 35D. Up front is a 3.0 liter turbocharged straight six diesel engine, and down below is an 8-speed automatic. Now I am super excited to be driving this X5 for many reasons, but if you could tell by the title, this is a Canadian diesel. So we're going to be talking a lot about that today, the sort of federalization process of getting this car here, how the car got here, why a Canadian diesel is different than these American diesels. So we'll have a lot to talk about. But if you would like to share your interesting vehicle with me, you can head on over to my website, zackpradel.com/submit. It's a quick and easy submission form, takes under a minute to fill out, and I come out to you. But let's get back to that diesel straight six under the hood. Well, you can build these to make a lot of power, but that's not really their forte out of the gate. The strong point of the diesel engine from BMW is going to be efficiency. This car on the highway on a trip will average over 30 miles to the gallon, which is very good for a vehicle of this size and stature. Similarly, looking down right now, I don't even have a full tank of fuel, and I'm getting over 550 miles of range. So I can drive here back to its native land in Canada on a single tank of diesel fuel. That is really, really nice. As you'll notice with the underhood shots, the DEF filling location is actually under the hood, and there's actually two of them. There's an active tank and a passive tank. Now, the owner has owned this vehicle for over 2 years and has only ever filled up the DEF twice. So it's not really much of a concern, but I'm always curious about the locations where auto manufacturers put those fill spots. Now, like I said, paired to it is an 8-speed automatic transmission. It's a ZF transmission, and it's shifting really, really well. It's quiet, it's concise, and doing the job. I've always loved and trusted BMW 8-speeds, so that's no different here in the Canadian diesel X5. Last but not least, this is the X-Drive system, so it is all-wheel drive. How does it feel to drive the X5 diesel? It drives like any other SUV in this segment. I wouldn't say it's particularly stellar driving dynamics that us Yankees missed out on, because it's not the case. It drives just like an American market diesel X5. Can't really notice any major differences. So before we talk about the interior, let's talk about how this car got here and why it's here. So for those of you unaware, even though Canada shares a giant border with us, and it's pretty easy to go from the US to Canada, bringing a car in for purchase from Canada is a rather tricky and lengthy process because our emissions rules are technically different. Although they are very similar, there are minute differences. Selling a car from Canada in the US takes a lot of paperwork and a lot of legwork. So this car was brought in from a French town in Canada down to Florida through an importer. So the US government actually has a list of vehicles available for import, vehicles that are similar enough to make the pass. Once it is brought in, it has to be okayed by the EPA, by the Department of Agriculture, so you have to get the vehicle power washed before sending it here so that there's no contaminated soil on the vehicle. And once it gets the okay from several different departments, you will get an added sticker shown here saying that it complies to United States emissions rules. Now, most states it is going to comply with, and it's not going to be a big issue. Like Florida has very, very relaxed emission laws, but California has very, very serious emission laws. So not all the time can you import a vehicle from Canada into California because they have stricter rules. On the screen now, I will show some importation documents that the owner has provided me with. Thank you very much, Mike, for that. If you would like to pause the video and do some actual legal reading, but I'm not going to bother you with the small details. So why would you do something like this? Why would you want to bring in a Canadian market diesel X5 to the US? Well, the short and long of it is it's cheaper. While Canadian new car prices are more expensive, Canadian used car prices tend to be less expensive. So you can actually end up finding a lot of great deals on vehicles just up over the border. The issue is finding someone that the government has not only okayed, but who is willing to import your vehicle for you. These diesel BMW X5s seem worth it to several companies to import. They can sell them for cheaper here in the US. They still make their money. They make the customer happy. It's an all-around deal. Some vehicles just aren't worth the importation, so we don't really see those much. But diesel X5s seem to carry somewhat of a premium, and so they're lucky enough to be brought in. So with all of that importation mumbo jumbo out of the way, let's talk about the interior. Well, in front of me, I have a fully digital gauge cluster. This was standard in Canada, while it was an option here in the US. Off to the left, I have my fuel and speedometer, and off to the right I have my tachometer and temperature, as well as some other graphics found throughout. On the steering wheel on the left I have my cruise control options, and off to the right I have my mode, volume, and phone options. The steering wheel feels a little dated for 2017, however it has been swapped out. This is the original steering wheel style, but they do have some degradation issues, so the owner put a new unit in. Off to the left I get 2 climate control vents and my headlight and fog light switches, of which the fog lights are Canadian spec. Here in the US, we got a lot nicer fog lights than what they got in Canada. I don't know why, but that's what happened. Moving out of the door, we do have lock and unlock and this really nice wood feature. And then down below, we have the trunk release, power mirrors, and power window switches. Moving into the center, we have the typical iDrive system. Nothing really too new here. And the owner said that it has been working pretty well. You know, I haven't had the best of luck with iDrive systems in the past, but he reports in his 2 years of ownership that it's been pretty good, so I can't argue with that. Another weird Canadian quirk is that this vehicle actually has a different TPMS than the American one. So here in America, we got battery-operated sensors in each wheel, and you would have to get the battery swapped out every once in a while. This vehicle doesn't use that, so you don't get accurate pressures seen here, you just get dashes, but it uses the rotation of the wheel to tell if you have a flat tire. So it still will warn you if you have a flat tire, but it won't give you actual readings because the Canadians didn't get that while us Yankees did. Then we do have 2 climate control vents, our hazard switch and our bubble button. Then we do have our climate controls, so we do get dual zone climate, heated seats, auto, and it is all in Fahrenheit because you can just switch those settings in the infotainment. Then we do have our radio buttons, so of course we do have volume and our CD player and our favorites, which, as I've said in previous BMW reviews, the favorites can be set to whatever you want them to be, whether that be your favorite radio station, or you could set one to going right to Apple CarPlay. You could set them to your favorite navigation points. But one thing I haven't shown off before is that if you actually lightly slide your finger over the favorites, it will tell you on the screen what is associated with that button, which is very, very nice to see. Then we do have an ashtray and cigarette lighter, and then we have cup holders. So we will do a big friggin' bottle test here in the Canadian market diesel X5, and I am happy to report that this car was built for handling the biggest of Tim Hortons coffee, so it passes the big friggin' bottle test just north of the border. Moving down the center console, we do, of course, have the shifter in the middle. This is BMW's more modern shifter, and I've grown to be okay with it. Off to the left, we have our traction control off and our drive modes. So we do have Sport, Comfort, and Eco Pro. Why BMW calls it Eco Pro when there's no just regular Eco, I don't know. Then we have our parking sensors on and off, our camera button, and hill descent control. An interesting thing about the camera is that there is a front-facing camera that you can toggle on and off, which is really nice, and a lot of newer vehicles do that. But there is no speed restriction. According to the owner, you could do nearly triple digits of speed and still have the front camera activated. This is not the case in most, or really any vehicle I've ever driven. I don't know if maybe Canada doesn't have rules against forward-facing cameras at speed, but a lot of them will turn off around 15 or 20 miles an hour. I can tell you firsthand, doing at least 45 miles an hour, this camera still has not shut off. So, kind of an interesting quirk there. Then we do have our power parking brake and brake hold down below. And then off to the right, we have our selector dial for that iDrive screen. I've always praised BMW for this style of dial. I think it's actually really nice, very tactile, and I like the feeling of it. Then we do have a clamshell opening center console. Nothing really too crazy in there. And then we'll talk about the seats. The seats are leather. They are comfortable, and I'm pleasantly enjoying them. Like I mentioned earlier, they are heated as well, but they look like pretty typical BMW seats. However, there was an issue where they were sort of starting to come apart at the bottom, so there is a service bulletin that you can get fixed under warranty at least one time. You can get a new seat from BMW, so the owner has done that. Speaking of which, I do want to take a brief pause here before we talk about the back seats because I forgot about it. The Canadian warranty carries over to the US. So if you buy a recent vehicle and it still has the warranty, but it was issued in Canada, it actually does carry on and move with the vehicle to the United States. So this car, as of recently, is now out of warranty, but when it was purchased in the US and okayed for purchase in the US and it went through all the EPA stuff, BMW has actually honored the warranty even though you took it out of its home country. Very, very interesting, and I have to tip my cap to BMW for doing that. Something very interesting about this Canadian import. But speaking of warranty with the seats, let's go hop in the back and do a backseat review. All right, so I'm being blinded in the back of this BMW X5 35D. The back seats, as bright as they appear on camera, my God. They're actually very comfortable. I do have a center console in here with some openable cup holders and a little storage cubby. Nothing really to write home about in there. However, I do have some climate control vents down below, and then I do have dual zone temperature down below. So not only do I get dual zone, but I also get heated seats back here. Really, really nice features for the back of the X5 diesel. Love that. Knee room good, headroom good. I am sitting back here very comfortably, and it is not an issue. But let's hop out. We'll take a quick look at the trunk and cargo space, and then we'll talk about the looks. All right, so we're on the back of the diesel X5, and first of all, right off the bat, I love that BMW does give you a tailgate. So you open up the hatch, and then you pull the tailgate down, and you can sit on the tailgate. You can use it like you would in a truck or anything like that. So I really, really enjoy that. Otherwise, there's not a whole lot going on back here. You do get a very ample amount of space and you get a privacy cover. But other than that, nothing too crazy. But this is the back of a Canadian diesel BMW X5. Now we gotta talk about the looks, and you won't really notice anything different than the X5 that we got here in the States. Besides, if you see those fog lights on, you could be like, hey, those look like kind of cheaper fog lights, and you would be correct. So don't be looking for these in traffic. It's gonna be really hard to tell unless someone scribbles, I bought this in Canada, across the rear window, which probably if I owned one, I would probably do that. I'll be honest. One very interesting feature on the exterior is actually with the doors. This came with factory soft closing doors at all 4 openings. The owner, Mike, as well as myself, believe that this was an option here in the US, but we've never seen it actually spec'd on a car. Apparently, it was a lot more common and came on the Canadian X5s, but was very hard to find in the US. So if you want soft closing doors, you might want to look up to Canada. But with all of that being said, let's get on to my final thoughts. What do I think driving this BMW X5? Well, I've driven these X5s before, so the actual driving experience wasn't very new to me, and it's very good. I do enjoy the driving experience very thoroughly. It makes great power, it gets great miles to the gallon. That's all I can really ask for from a modern SUV. But to me, it's so interesting, this car's journey. When I saw a Canadian import X5 slide across my desk, I knew I had to film it just off a basis of I didn't really know much about it. I didn't know what made it special and Canadian. I thought maybe it would apologize and say sorry every time I hit a speed bump, or maybe I had to fill the def container with maple syrup. I wasn't quite sure. And so doing more research, talking to the owner, and learning about this has been a very fun experience. I didn't know that you could even import a vehicle from Canada to the United States. I wasn't sure how that worked, and it's actually more feasible than you think. There's just a lot of paperwork that goes into it. So if you could find an importer that's willing to handle all of that, this is actually a really smart purchase. You get these for pretty decent chunk of money off, and you get a fantastic vehicle. It makes me start to wonder what other vehicles would be eligible for import. Maybe something that is a little wackier, maybe something that is somewhat different than the vehicles we got here. And so as we wrap this video up, if you're looking for a new X5, you might want to start looking just a little bit north. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Huge thank you to Mike for letting me take out his BMW X5 from Canada. This was such a cool experience. I love bringing just the strangest, most diverse collection of vehicles to my channel, and Mike is definitely helping me achieve that. He's very, very knowledgeable about this car, and he has been such a joy to work with. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to rate the video, comment on the video, and subscribe if you really liked it. Take care, guys.